Musk is the longest game player I know of with big money today. Musk is looking more than 1,000 years out.
He measures pretty much every major decision by whether or not it brings the day when we have a self-sustainable colony on Mars sooner or later. That's the prism by which he makes every single decision he makes it through that prism.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to Connecting the Dots, the channel where we follow the breadcrumbs and try to predict where disruptions will take us. 16 years after Elon Musk became CEO of that fledgling startup Tesla, the company has completely transformed. They are making the best-selling car in the world. They're becoming an energy powerhouse. They are gearing to operate robo-taxis, and they are on their way to producing billions of humanoid robots. Some see a lack of focus, but the opposite is true. Cars, energy, robotaxis, and humanoids are mere milestones on the path to a grander vision. In this video, we'll explore Elon's companies through the lens of the infinite game, a concept that's reshaping how we think about long-term success and impact. Guided by extraordinary achievers, we will unpack Elon's 1,000-year vision, gaining deep insights into Tesla, SpaceX, and all his other companies. Doing so, we will peek into the mind of a visionary willing to chew glass and stare into the abyss in his pursuit to save us all. A huge shout out to my latest patrons, George H., Jasper A., Mr. Mark, David P., BRA, JD, Owen G., Oliver, and Jack C. Your support makes these deep dives possible. And to all my patrons, you guys rock. To help me make more videos, come join me on Patreon for ad-free access and exclusive videos for as little as $1 a month. Now buckle up and get ready, because Elon's infinite game is a game of disruptions, and disruptions are never boring. Chapter 1, Infinite Companies. Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game, link in description, sheds new light on Tesla and Elon Musk's other companies. Sinek describes businesses that aren't just chasing quick profits, but are committed to changing the world forever. Let's hear Simon explain this concept in his own words.
We all think about winning and being the best and being number one, but if you think about it, only in a finite game can that exist, a game that has fixed rules, agreed upon objectives, and known players, like football or baseball. There's always a beginning, middle, and end, and if there's a winner, there has to be a loser. Infinite games have known and unknown players, which means anyone can join. It has changeable rules, which means you can play however you want. And the objective is to perpetuate the game, to stay in the game as long as possible. In other words, there's no such thing as being number one or winning in a game that has no finish line. And what I learned is that when we try to win in a game that has no finish line, we try and be the best in a game that has no agreed upon objectives or agreed upon metrics or timeframes. There's a few consistent and predictable outcomes: the decline of trust, the decline of cooperation, the decline of innovation. And I find this fascinating because so many of the ways that we run most organizations is with a finite mindset.
Finite games, as Sinek explains, have clear rules, known players, and a definite end. Think football matches or chess games. There's a winner, a loser, and it's over when it's over. Infinite games are different beasts altogether. The rules can change, players come and go, and there's no defined endpoint. The goal isn't to win, but to keep the game going. In truth, there's no such thing as winning in business. Whether you hit your targets today or are outperformed by a competitor, tomorrow's a new day and the game continues. So the most important metrics are to keep afloat, to grow and evolve. Most businesses, however, operate as if they're playing a finite game. They fixate on short-term metrics, such as beating the competition and winning market share. But truly transformative companies, what I'll call infinite companies, have completely different goals. These infinite companies understand that business is an ongoing journey. Take Tesla. They're not obsessed with beating competitors, just laser-focused on advancing their cause. And they don't just want to dominate the market, they want to change it altogether. But if you're not trying to beat your competitors, how do you treat them?
Because I talked about decline of innovation. And the problem with a finite mindset is you're always competing against someone. But as we've already established in an infinite game, there's no one to beat. The only one to outdo is yourself, right? You should be competing against yourself. That's truly the only competition. Now, there are other players in the game. You have to be aware of them. You have to know what they're doing. You can learn from them. Their strengths will reveal to you your weaknesses so that you can improve. But there's no such thing as beating them. And when companies do come up to me and say, well, we are number one. I'm like, based on which metrics that you chose,
Right.
based on which timeframes that you chose. And if somebody really does like, no, Simon, we are number one. My answer is always the same. I always go, for now, for now. Like, that's the whole infinite game. Like, nobody stays in any position. It's always for now.
Commenting on the Starliner fiasco, a Boeing employee was quoted saying, "We hate SpaceX. We talk shit about them all the time. And now they are bailing us out. I'm horrified." Let's contrast this with how Tesla treats its rivals.
Alaska writes, honestly, we don't think of the competition much here at SpaceX. It's more about the impossible goal of Mars that drives us. And that really resonates with my experience in Tesla. KPIs towards the 1,000-year goal are made visible to everyone in real time. When I was working in Tesla in 2020, we had monitors just above head height about every 3 meters in every Tesla building. And those monitors showed, out of all cars and trucks built in the world, it was around 80 million cars and trucks built in a year all around the world, what percentage of them was electric? And it was a really small percent. And we would cheer anytime that number went up. I remember cheering when another company, a German company, started selling more electric cars. I've never been in a company before where we cheered for a competitor. But it really looks to me like Elon manages the companies towards a 1,000-year goal and not a profit motive. Because we all cheered when the percent of electric vehicles crept up slightly, even though those cars at that time were not Teslas.
Tesla doesn't aim to crush BYD. They recognize the market is big enough for both. Instead, Tesla studies its rival to understand its own strengths and weaknesses. They even collaborate with BYD, creating a win-win scenario. Tesla doesn't divide companies into competitors and suppliers. They see all companies as potential partners. I want to share something that's become crucial in my online life. NordVPN is sponsoring this video, but I've been happily using them for years across all my devices. Normally, I'd highlight that NordVPN isn't just about security, but also about fun. It's like a digital passport that melts online borders, so I can get content limited to other countries and watch my home streaming services while traveling. So that's normally, but the world is far from normal. A few years ago, a friend told me, always use a top VPN. The world is changing fast, and you have no idea how important your online footprint could soon become. She explained that ISPs and data brokers keep and sell records of our browsing history. And we don't want our data to get to advertisers or scammers, which use it for phishing and ransomware, so VPNs are always a good thing. Then she added, but society is changing. If one day a bad government gets into power, I don't want you to be sorry that 2 years back you visited some website without a good VPN to encrypt your connection and keep your activities private. She recommended NordVPN, which is fast, easy to use, and has a third-party audited zero logs policy, so they can't track you even if told to. Their RAM-based servers wipe data on every reboot, and their double VPN feature routes through 2 servers for extra privacy. The world is changing. Famous people are put under surveillance, and regular citizens are prosecuted for things they posted. What's fine today can be banned tomorrow. So VPNs are not just about watching blocked videos and avoiding hackers. They are about protecting your digital life from potential future risks, whatever they might be. To get started, use my link nordvpn.com/dots and get 4 extra months on their 2-year plan, plus a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to nordvpn.com/dots and give them a try. I think you'll find the added peace of mind as valuable as I do. Let's hear what teardown titan Sandy Munro has to say about this to Bearded Tesla Guy.
The investments aren't just at Tesla. They've really done a lot to incorporate their partners, not just suppliers, but partners. And we see those investments happening at Panasonic and the like to also help make these, because Tesla knows they can't do this all on their own in the quantities that they're looking for. Does that translate to the industry?
It could, if you decide to make that decision, but there's a lot of pride associated with some of these people that are in there. And then they've made some, I wouldn't class them, well, bold would be one way of putting it. I think basically foolish statements, saying things like, oh, we're better than Tesla, or we're going to be better than Tesla next year, or something like that. I mean, tempting the fates like that is just ridiculous. You just wind up in a situation where somehow you're going to have to either backtrack or wind up losing your job. I think that in a lot of ways, these people should be working with Tesla, not against them.
While Tesla embraces partnership, other automakers take a different stance. GM's Mary Barra focuses on beating Tesla and can barely utter their name. Ford is better, but still frames things competitively. Here's CEO Jim Farley discussing the F-150 Lightning.
The shining light for us at Ford is this beautiful Lightning made right down the road in Dearborn, right here in the state of Michigan, already the leader of all EV pickup trucks in our industry in the United States. Take that, Elon Musk.
As Simon says,
For now. For now. It's always for now.
and he's right. Soon after Farley said this, Cybertruck sales surpassed the F-150 Lightning, and less than a year into its ramp-up, Cybertruck is already the best-selling EV pickup. This shift in mindset has far-reaching consequences. It transforms how companies set goals, allocate resources, innovate, and measure success. It frees them from the tyranny of quarterly reports, allowing them to envision futures that might take decades to realize. Take project management, for instance. Finite thinking judges success by strict time and budget constraints. Infinite thinking asks a different question. Was this an efficient way to bring us closer to our vision? This perspective on budgeting alone has massive implications for innovation. Sandy Munro often points out how in traditional auto companies, resisting innovation is the surest path to the top. So here's how budgeting can stifle innovation.
If you say no to innovation and you're a mid-manager, you're destined for the top. It's the way it works. Because if I make a change, that means I need investment. That means I need to have budgeted money. That means I'm going to be taking a risk for the company. That means on and on and on.
But Tesla does things differently. Here's former Tesla employee and agile hardware expert Joe Justice explaining how Elon's companies maintain agility at scale and operate without traditional budgets.
It's one thing to think, okay, 10 people working together, but when you multiply that by several orders of magnitude, it just becomes incredibly difficult to imagine.
A lot of people think as you get larger, the engagement has to die, the dream has to die, and you have to fall into line. And you need hierarchy to keep reins on things when you're big, and you need a ladder to climb then. A lot of people think so. And Elon Musk, across all of Elon's companies, have proven that to be completely false. But what it does seem to require is no budgeting, and the owner works the trenches. And a lot of companies are investments, so you don't have the people who are funding it work the trenches. Volkswagen, a great example. Both are publicly traded, Tesla and Volkswagen. But if you want to make a 3 million euro allocation in Volkswagen, that's a board level approval. So you have to wait for the next board meeting. In Tesla, you do it right now because Elon says you can. And Elon is the majority owner. So Elon said there is a board, but you don't have to wait for the board to execute any level of financial spend. So that changes the autonomy. Then the flatness, the person who's paying for it all, Elon, works with you, whoever you are. Elon just moves all around and works everywhere, doing what you're doing. So you don't have to make reports to them. They understand. You don't have to have a meeting to get their time. They're there. In fact, Elon doesn't do meetings. So the only way you talk to Elon is to work with Elon on something. That is a meeting, right?
It's not that Elon personally approves budgets. Instead, you are empowered to do things.
Elon is also encouraging everyone to spend money as fast as they responsibly can. And there are no budgets. There's no annual budget. I never found one. No weekly budget, no monthly budget. So what you're encouraged to spend money on is anything that will increase that KPI faster.
And Tesla's AI-driven digital self-management system determines how well your spending aligns with the company's goals. But what kind of goals are we talking about? Quarterly, yearly, 5 years out?
Now, this is where things get pretty exciting if you like technology. If you have a real-time metric towards your 1,000-year goal, then you can do real-time budgeting. Annual budgets are eliminated, and AI and humans make daily financial decisions to maximize the efficiency of increasing those real-time KPIs, key performance indicators, or key progress indicators.
A 1,000-year perspective sounds incredible, but is it real? Do Elon Musk's companies truly evaluate decisions through such a long-term lens? We'll dive deeper in Chapter 2, but for now, here's what astronaut Garrett Reisman told Joe Rogan about SpaceX's decision-making process.
What is the timeline in terms of, does SpaceX have a multiple stage timeline, like a timeline for incorporating the Dragon crew, and then a timeline for the Starhopper, and then a timeline for additional projects in the future? Is he thinking along these lines of charted out progress?
Oh yeah. He's in fact he measures pretty much every major decision by whether or not it brings the day when we have a self-sustainable colony on Mars sooner or later. That's the prism by which he makes every single decision he makes it through that prism.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Chapter 2, Elon's Vision. Let's start with a riddle. What do Japan's Hoshi Ryokan Hotel and Congo Gumi Construction, Germany's Faber-Castell Art Supplies, and Italy's Baroviere and Toso Venetian glassmakers and Beretta firearms have in common? The answer? All 5 have been family-owned for centuries, some for over a millennium. These companies get it. Their purpose isn't quick profit, but enduring operation for years and years to come. It's no coincidence, in my opinion, that family-run Ford is the only 20th century American car company to never go bankrupt. That's how the truly great ones operate. Let's hear Sandy Munro tell us the story of his first visit to Toyota.
You mentioned a 1,000-year plan. Okay, so I have a story. I went to Japan. First time I went to Japan, and I was with a bunch of VPs and directors, but I wasn't a VP or a director. I was a manufacturing engineer from engine division staff. So we get into this thing, and you know how they do the Japanese thing. You get a long table like this, and the big shots are sitting in the center, and then as you go out, they become less and less important until you get to me, and I wasn't important at all. So the big shots, the vice presidents were all yakking, and Iji was there, Iji Toyoda. He was right there. He was sitting in the center of the table, and he had vice presidents and all kinds of other people that were backing him up. Not one other person made any noise. Iji did all the talking, all of it. One of the guys said, so what do you have for your 1 year and your quarterly 1 year and 5 year plans? And he sat there for a second and he said, I have a 100-year plan. And everybody just about, I definitely stopped breathing. And he said, he turned around to somebody and he's basically in Japanese said to go fetch it. One of the VPs started laughing. And Ichi turned around and he looked at him and he said, what's the joke? What's so funny? And the guy said, 100-year plan? You'll be dead. Your grandchildren will be dead. Why would you ever make a 100-year plan? Ichi put his hand up like that and stopped the guy. And then he said something in Japanese. So my interpreter was sitting right beside me. And I said, excuse me, what did Ichi just say? And she said, oh, nothing. It doesn't matter. And I said, I'd like to know. I don't think I can tell you. Well, why not? Well, I don't think you'll understand. I said, try me. Where there's arrogance, there's opportunity. That's what he said. I wrote that down. 100-year plan. Can you imagine? How do you think of a 100-year plan? A 1,000-year plan, I can't even comprehend. But a 100-year plan, I figured there should be, every company should have a 100-year plan. I just don't understand why I would have died to see that. I mean, how did they, everything was, this is prior to electronic everything. What kind of a book did you put it in? How did you frame it? How did you do this? So I've been told that Ichi's plan was cast asunder by the newer people in the company. But I would really have liked to have seen that 100-year plan. That would have been just brilliant. But unfortunately, bigger heads prevailed.
It's no coincidence that the world's oldest company, Kongo Gumi and Toyota, both come from Japan. Extreme long-term planning is what turned Japanese car makers into the giant industry they became. But times changed. MBAs armed with business school knowledge replaced the old guard, and while they made lots of money for shareholders, they failed to adapt to the times. This year they saw huge profits, but look at the trend of sales and you'll realize they are on the edge of a precipice. MBAs did this everywhere. I could show Sandy Munro spewing fire and brimstone at how they destroyed American manufacturing, but chances are you already know this. So let's skip to Simon Sinek, describing to live what MBAs do.
How is the infinite mindset different to just like long-term thinking?
The problem with the term long-term thinking is what is long-term?
Right.
Right. And long-term, if you go back a bunch of years, you go back a few decades, companies would have 10 and 20-year plans. Now, when you talk to companies about quote unquote long-term thinking, we're talking like a 5-year plan, and most companies don't even have a 5-year plan. And if they did have a 5-year plan, they're probably not sticking to it because, again, there's a lot of misaligned incentive structures. And so infinite we can all agree on, we know what that is. Stay in business for as long as possible.
But not all companies are run by MBAs. In his book, The Vision-Driven Leader, link in description, Michael Hyatt distinguishes between leaders and managers. Leaders create a vision, while managers at the very best execute it. Leaders inspire and motivate, while managers administer. Leaders are willing to take risks, while managers do their best to avoid them. And leaders focus on the long term, while managers are focused on the short term. MBAs like Mary Barra are clearly managers, and you don't need me to tell you which of these Elon is. So Elon's companies are run by their founder, a visionary with a deep knowledge of history and a plan spanning over 1,000 years.
Elon Musk was just interviewed by Chris Anderson at TED last week, and Chris Anderson asks Elon Musk something to the effect of, why are you doing all these things? Like, why don't you just stick with Tesla and be done with it? Like, why do all the other stuff? And you look at, and Musk, you can see this look on his face, and he takes a long time to answer. He actually doesn't understand the question. He cannot understand why you wouldn't do that. And he sort of gets emphatic, which for Elon Musk is pretty amazing because he doesn't get emphatic. But that's basically what it is. He gets emphatic and says, because I want to live in a world that's better than this, or words to that effect, you know, where I'm not, where the world that we're living in right now makes us unhappy. Why don't we want to live in a world that makes us happy? You know, he gets sort of, he can't understand, and again, it's vision first. And that's why he doesn't understand why you wouldn't try and solve problems.
Let's examine the evolving visions behind Elon Musk's companies. When Tesla was just founded, its mission statement was to accelerate the world's transition to electric mobility with a full range of increasingly affordable electric cars. As the company evolved, so did its mission. Out went mobility and cars, and in came sustainable energy. To accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy is the current mission, and it is much longer term than it seems. Global energy demand is immense, and replacing all fossil fuel sources with sustainable ones will take a long time. But that's the easy part anyway. The hard part is that energy demand is constantly growing. Developing countries are growing out of poverty. AI requires a flurry of data centers. Travel should proliferate once robo-taxis arrive. And that's just the beginning. In other words, the growing demand for energy should make Tesla's mission a lengthy race of chasing an aggressively growing exponential. With Master Plan 4 and with Optimus on the horizon, Tesla's mission might soon evolve to something like freeing humanity from the toil of labor and accelerating the transition to an age of abundance. This vision is almost infinite, but in fact, Elon's other companies aim even further. As former Tesla VP George Blankenship puts it,
he gets up every morning thinking, what can I do for humanity today? How can I do something that will be impactful to humanity of the future? That's what he's focused on.
Let's move to SpaceX, whose vision goes well beyond satellites or broadband. Its mission is to make humanity multiplanetary, which goes well beyond Mars. The company's ultimate goal is spreading the light of consciousness among the stars, an infinite vision if there ever was one. And here's something for you to ponder. If making humanity multiplanetary evolved into spreading the light of consciousness among the stars, do you think that the light of consciousness to be spread is only human? In other words, do you think Elon's goal is limited to spreading our species? Or does it extend to the much more practical, post-AGI sending of robots, computers, and even entire spaceships with consciousness to explore distant galaxies well after humans become extinct? Let me know what you think in the comments below. A very similar play is evolving in Neuralink. Letting paraplegics control computers and visually impaired to see are just near-term steps compared to the long-term vision of letting humans merge with machines. Their mission of developing ultra-high bandwidth brain-machine interfaces to connect humans and computers is extremely long-term, but extremely required if we don't want to be left on the wrong side of singularity. And xAI's mission of understanding the true nature of the universe is an infinite quest as well, but let's touch base and check how long-term the vision behind X is. Whether purchased as a social network or to solve a current threat to humanity, surely the vision behind X is shorter term than that of the others, right? Joe Justice offers insight.
What did he do after becoming what I would call the product owner? Elon set a 1,000-year goal for Twitter, and that goal is democracy. Elon Musk mentioned that the reason for the acquisition was to help humanity, along with ensuring freedom of speech. Elon stated, Twitter will be the most respected advertising platform that strengthens brands and helps companies grow. Why? The vision is connected to Elon's passion for innovation and Elon's social and economic contributions. Elon has long been focused on using technology to solve human challenges and build a better future. And the acquisition of Twitter is part of this larger vision.
Beyond preserving democracy and free speech, Elon envisions X as an everything app, encompassing banking, leisure, jobs and hiring, personal memories, research, social connections, you name it. With advanced AI and tons of unique data to train on from all aspects of life, Elon wants to turn X into humanity's primary tool for finding the truth. Tools like community notes are a great beginning, but expect AI and more data to take center stage on this in the upcoming years. Truth is important to Elon for obvious reasons like justice, preserving democracy, and doing what's right. In addition, however, truth is critical for running his 5 infinite companies. In the next video, we will see why truth is crucial for infinite companies, much more so than for finite ones. For now, however, let's just say that Elon wants X to become our primary way of finding truth, and that by itself is an endless endeavor. Chapter 3, Aligning All Vectors. But why are we even discussing that Tesla, SpaceX, and other Elonians are playing the infinite game? Shouldn't every company try to remain in business forever? In theory, yes, but in practice, most don't. Let's examine why, starting with a company that's already flunked the infinity test before, General Motors. In a previous video about GM's EV program, I showed how GM has an agency problem, where the interests of its chair and top management are very different from those of the company. GM management's incentive structure prioritizes short-term gains over long-term success. For example, consider the following points. 1. Due to regulations and laws as well as customer preference, the world is transitioning to EVs. Therefore, any company that values the infinite game should transition on time to EVs. 2. EV production costs are currently high. However, through Wright's law and economies of scale, these costs should decline significantly as additional units are produced. Companies hell-bent on producing in scale will slide down the cost curve, while those who lag will remain up high. Therefore, it's not enough to delay the transition to sometime in the future. Any company not going all in on producing EVs now will long-term remain at a cost disadvantage and could be priced out of the market. If long-term success demands going all in on EVs, management incentives should be aligned accordingly. Let's check if they are. 3. All companies except Tesla and probably BYD currently lose money on EV sales. Therefore, increasing EV production hurts profits and could even cause losses. Lower profits also lower stock price. 4. Management compensation is heavily tied to both stock price and profits. Therefore, they are incentivized to produce as few EVs as possible, hurting the company's long-term success. 5. Funding the transition and passing the loss-making stage will require many billions of dollars, so infinity-minded companies should conserve their resources. 6. But again, management compensation is heavily tied to both stock price and profits. Therefore, they are incentivized to boost stock price, with GM raising its dividends and buying back around 30% of the company's shares. Doing this, instead of investing in the future, is the complete antithesis of playing an infinite game. While management incentives are not tied to the number of EVs sold, they do include a bonus for introducing new EVs. This has led to a strategy of offering a plethora of EV models with minimal production for each. For instance, Hummer EV delivery started to much fanfare in December 2021. I said delivery and not deliveries, as just one unit was delivered, thus securing management bonuses for 2021, while further deliveries only started several months later. GM's dismal production numbers may very well cost them their future, and producing many different models in small scale rather than focusing on a single model contradicts economies of scale. However, this strategy aligns with management's immediate financial interests through larger bonuses and higher stock prices when they sell shares, so it's not surprising that that's the path they chose.
And if they did have a 5-year plan, they're probably not sticking to it because, again, there's a lot of misaligned incentive structures.
The thing is, playing the infinite game requires a completely different incentive structure.
And I guess, at a macro level, which would explain the election component, but also why too many of our business leaders are playing with an excessive amount of finite mindset, is we have misaligned incentive structures.
Right.
Too much money in the system.
Wait, what do you mean too much money in the system?
So let's back into it, right? So you have misaligned incentive structures where I'm going to bonus you based on a short-term result, right? So the number of people who get individual pay packages, not team pay packages, not group pay packages, individual team packages, in the case of too many executives, based on the price of the equity, at the end of the year or at the end of the quarter, that means the only thing I really care about is the end of the year or the end of the quarter because my pay package depends on it. Mm-hmm. And so I will make decisions that may be bad for the longevity and survivability of this company, but shit, I got rich along the way. And there's, businesses littered with case studies like that. Let's take one really quick one, Kodak. Kodak made its money from chemicals, from film, from processing, from paper, huge enterprise. And in 1975, a Kodak engineer invented the digital camera. And when he showed it to the executives, they couldn't imagine having to completely cannibalize and undo this huge company they had for this new technology. So they decided to suppress the technology. And they weren't that stupid. They knew that once the genie's out of the lamp, like there's no putting it back. And so they predicted that they had about a 10-year window. And sure enough, to the year, their prediction was really good. Exactly 10 years later, digital cameras started to show up on the market, and Kodak went into steep decline and eventually declared bankruptcy. But the executives who made those decisions, they weren't around long enough for Kodak to be destroyed. And so they got very, very rich making short-term decisions where had Kodak had been willing to take the short-term hit to reconfigure their company, and they had 10 years to do it. They didn't have to do it in 1 year. For all we know, we would all be demanding Kodak technology in our cell phones.
But Elon's approach to growth goes far beyond traditional incentives. It's about aligning every aspect of the company towards a common goal. For his keynote in Inbound 2017, HubSpot CTO and co-founder Dharmesh Shah chose to share a lesson which Elon taught him on how to produce growth. The story starts with Dharmesh receiving an invitation to attend an exclusive gathering of legendary founders. Being an introvert, Dharmesh initially replied that he couldn't attend. In response, he received a single line, "Oh, and by the way, Elon Musk will be joining us." With both him and his son being huge Elon fans, he RSVP'd. What he did not expect, however, was that sitting down at the dinner table, Elon sat himself right next to him. Let's listen to Dharmesh tell what happened next.
The good news is, Elon was everything I had hoped he would be. Crazy, smart, and brilliant, super geeky, and as it turns out, very gracious and very charming. So I got to spend 2.5 hours at a small dinner with Elon Musk. Had a great time. Didn't go to bathroom for 2.5 hours, different story. So we're chatting, having a good time. And during the course of the evening, this question is posed. Like, Elon, you're doing like Tesla and SpaceX. Like, how do you do such big things? Like, what's your advice? Now, you have to realize Elon is a physics guy. Here's his answer. Let's say you're trying to get your company from point A to point B. Every person on the team is a vector, and your progress as a company is determined by the sum of all vectors. That's all he said. And here's what I pieced together around what Elon was talking about. First off, a vector is a quantity having both magnitude and direction. So let's say you have a hypothetical company, and you have a person in this company, and let's say they have an impact score of 9 out of 10. They're super clueful, they're committed, they're competent, they're good. 9 out of 10 on this arbitrary scale. Now, this in of itself is not a vector, because we don't know what direction this person is moving in. This is what's known as a scalar, just the magnitude. Okay, now if we know this person is moving in the right direction, now all of a sudden, it's a vector represented by an arrow. Let's say you had 4 people in the company, and they were all 9 out of 10s because you've been hiring well, you've got a good culture. Let's say you have these 4 people, and let's say this is how we would represent how they're working. 2 people are pulling in one direction, 2 people are pulling in the opposite direction. The algebraic sum of these 4 vectors, this is what Elon is talking about, is what's known as the null vector. It has 0 magnitude and unknown direction. Nothing is being accomplished.
Aligning the vectors so they all push towards a common goal is ultra important, but doing so requires much more than just the incentive plan. This alignment starts with the very structure of the company. Unlike GM's towering hierarchy, Tesla embraces a flat organization. This isn't just about efficiency, it's about eliminating misaligned incentives that can sabotage long-term success. Let's hear from Joe Justice on how this plays out in practice.
I wanted to ask you about continuous ramping, but I think this is more for everybody else out there. It's like you said, it's a never-ending process. There's always some other team that's working on trying to improve whatever the hell it is that you're working on improving at the same time. So it's just this compounding thing. Yeah. Okay.
And no one wins, right? There are many of those at once making different versions all the time. So many companies have a problem where innovation is bottlenecked by 2 or more personalities vying to be chosen, for their design to be chosen. And if you're not chosen, it's shameful. You often miss the next promotion. Your design was for nothing. So how does that work in Tesla, where you have dozens of simultaneous execution paths? First, there's no promotion ladder, and that solves for a lot of problems.
Right.
It just, an enormous amount of politics are disarmed because of that, which is cool. And second, everyone has visibility, so you couldn't cover something up. Like
Right.
it's visible to everyone, everywhere, all the time. So when you assume transparency and you know it's difficult to vie for another position because there are almost no positions,
Right.
it's very nearly 100% flat. Like basically all you can have, all that's left are good actors. And the fact that there's no waterfall budget planning to say, as of this date, we've decided this is the version, the other ones are stopped. It's simply which is a more efficient path to value. So you never have to stop anything. In fact, often you don't.
Imagine a world without office politics, where every decision directly serves the company's mission. That's the power of a flat structure in an infinite game. Here's what Farzad had to say in his very first video after leaving Tesla.
Playing politics at Tesla will eventually get you out the door. And even though it exists, I haven't seen many people survive at that company that play politics.
But how does this translate to day-to-day operations? Let's skip to where Joe Justice explains to Dr. Know-It-All how at Tesla, designing parts actually used in cars often takes around 20 minutes rather than years upon years.
It's reducing I call it don't get married to your work at the beginning, right? So that's the thing. You can also get rid of a lot of politics where people aren't like, oh my gosh, I've spent 6 months on this project, and if it doesn't get picked, I'm screwed. It's like, I spent 20 minutes, whatever. I'll go on and do something else. So yeah, cool.
The concept of something like universal basic income helps here. And if anyone wins, we all win. So the idea that almost everyone in all Musk companies makes about $20 an hour. So it doesn't matter if your idea was picked or not. It's not going to change any of your finances. Right. What will is the stock price. And the stock price is in some ways randomized by market forces. But the core of it is excellent execution. And that's what stock price is supposed to be anchored by. And on a good day, it is. So you're incented. You selfishly would make more money by simply trying to optimize the overall whole and for everyone else too. So you naturally think what's good for everybody, or more naturally, and you can get psychopaths anywhere. But in general, on the whole, the system is built such that most people put their best foot forward every day. It's a pretty good system.
This isn't just about fair pay. It's about creating an environment where everyone is invested in the company's long-term vision. Mainstream media always tells us how amazing Mary Barra is. So let's imagine a bizarre situation where Tesla hires Mary as CEO. How good of a job do you think Barra would do leading Tesla? Horrible, of course, and it goes much deeper than whether she has the credentials, knowledge, and skills. Even with the correct incentive structure in place, Barra wouldn't fit, as with years upon years of running companies via a finite mindset, she wouldn't be able to make the mental shift required to run the company towards its extremely long-term goals. Leading an infinite company requires a special kind of leader. It's not about credentials or even skills alone. It's about having an unwavering commitment to the mission. SpaceX Chief Operating Officer Gwynne Shotwell embodies this perfectly.
So we're on the moon. Everybody is connected. 10 years from now, we'll have the start of a settlement on Mars. And 50 years from now, I think, are you guys old enough to know the Jetsons? Yeah. Like less than 50 years for the Jetsons, right? We'll be leaving Earth, flying around in space, no more traffic jams because you got little air cars, going to space, going to the moon, and hopefully 50 years from now we will have found some way within physics or learned something new in physics that's going to allow us to go to planets beyond our solar system to find, your doppelganger from Proxima.
Wow. Y'all are thinking of Interstellar then.
I do, actually. That's why I do what I do.
This passion at the top sets the tone for the entire organization. To be fair, having a finite focus is not always the CEO's fault. Even the most visionary leader can be hamstrung by short-sighted owners. Joe Justice explains the critical role of aligned investors.
A longer-term return on investment horizon corrects for a lot of problems. A short-term return on investment horizon creates a lot of problems. And Musk is the longest game player I know of with big money today. Musk is looking more than 1,000 years out. And this really frustrates investors. Institutional investors get really angry at Musk practices. And this is related to why Musk was kicked out of PayPal, was forced to sell early. And Musk made a ton of money. But Musk was trying to X.com PayPal. What Doge is now is a very natural continuation of one of the many goals Musk was already moving towards with PayPal. And the investors were saying, look, we don't want to wait another day for our payout, for our big payout. So let's cut and run. And Musk was saying, but you miss out on the larger narrative of making the world a better place, which will make more money. It just takes longer. And look what happened with Tesla. I mean, he could have cut and run many, many times, and it keeps compounding in value, and it will continue to do so because Musk plays a long game like a treant.
Probably the best example of a right-minded CEO getting hogtied by shareholders is the saga of Herbert Diess at Volkswagen. Diess was hell-bent on transitioning VW and its brands to EVs and on improving manufacturing techniques for reducing labor hours and costs. It really seemed like VW had a chance, but then shareholders, including unions, stepped on the brakes, replacing him with the very capable but short-term focused Porsche CEO, Oliver Blume. With a strong founder at the helm, the problem of owner misalignment in Elon Musk's companies is significantly reduced.
Now, it's a lot easier if you own the company. If you do own the company, follow this shorter list of steps. Now, be careful. I actually say own the company. Herbert Diess tried a lot of these steps that I mentioned above, and that got the Labor Council upset with Herbert Diess, and that got the board of Volkswagen scared enough that they fired Herbert Diess. Because it's the board that owns Volkswagen and the board above the board, not Herbert Diess. Herbert Diess was the CEO. So please be careful. It's not the executive team. It's the owners, the ones who hire or fire the executive teams. If you are the owners, it's way easier. So if the Pierce family actually wanted to pivot Volkswagen, they could, and they'd do it like this. They'd write their master plan. What's the 1,000-year goal for Volkswagen? If it's just make money for the Pierce family, it won't be very inspiring to engineers. It will not make it the most attractive place for graduating engineers worldwide. But if they chose a more inspiring goal, then maybe it could be the most sought after place to work by graduating engineers worldwide.
Sometimes alignment means making tough decisions. Elon's Twitter takeover, resulting in an 80% reduction in staff, wasn't just about cost cutting. It was about creating a team fully committed to the company's new direction. Many of Twitter's employees ideologically resisted Elon and could not be counted upon to align with the direction Elon wanted to take the company. Rather than discovering the hard way that some vectors in the company stalled progress instead of accelerating it, all hopelessly misaligned vectors had to go right from the start. When all these elements align, mission, structure, incentives, leadership, and ownership, something magical happens. You don't just attract good employees, you attract the best. You attract exceptionals who don't just work for the paycheck, but rather for the mission. Case in point, my friend on X, Ash Martian, handle First Mars Colonist, is not only a kick-ass developer, but also creates Martian arts, pun definitely intended, and is deeply passionate about Mars colonization. When a few weeks ago, Ash joined Blue Origin, I offered congratulations on the new role. The response I received was telling. I am so excited to contribute. This choice of words wasn't accidental. It wasn't just so excited. And to contribute was not added by chance. This is how Ash views the change, not as a high-profile job to flaunt around, but rather part of a larger calling. Personally, I was lucky enough to work 3 times during my career in similar surroundings. You work harder and for much longer hours than you ever thought you would, but this lets you fly faster and soar higher than ever before, accomplishing things beyond the impossible. The satisfaction in doing so is truly next level, and you give it all you've got, and you work with passion.
The work that we're trying to do is to advance a vision that's bigger than all of us. And if you're going to put pressure on people, it better be for the right reason. Like if you're going to put pressure on me, it better be for a worthwhile reason. If it's just to hit a goal, if it's just to hit some arbitrary date or some arbitrary number or make a stock price hit some target, you can keep it. I'm out of here.
Yes.
But if you want to put pressure on me because we are brothers and sisters in arms, working to advance a cause bigger than ourselves, that we believe whatever we're going to build will significantly contribute to the greater good of society, then go ahead, I'll take the pressure. And if you look at the Apples and if you look at the Elon Musks, the Jobs and the Elon Musk, they fundamentally believe that what they were doing would improve society and and it was for the good of humankind. And so the pressure, in other words, the what they were doing was more important, more valuable than any individual on the team. And so the pressure they put on people served a greater good. And so we looked to the left and we looked to the right to each other and said, we're in this together. We accept this. We want this. But if it's just pressure to hit a number or make the widget move a little faster, that's soul-sucking. That's not passion. That's stress. And I think a lot of leaders confuse that making people work hard is not what makes them passionate. Giving them something to believe in and work on is what drives passion.
Dreaming of making us a multiplanetary species, SpaceX COO Gwynne Shotwell works with passion. Dreaming of safe and cheap transportation, Tesla's head of autonomous driving, Ashok Elaswamy, works with passion. Dreaming of freeing humanity from toil and moving us to an age of abundance, Tesla's head of AI, Milan Kovac, works with passion. And Farzad and Joe Justice also worked with passion. And you can bet your ass that down at Camp Bezos, Ash Martian will now work with passion. This is the true power of the infinite game. It's not just about building companies that crush their competitors. It's about creating beacons of innovation that light the way to a better future for all of humanity. The next step. We've only scratched the surface of this topic, but we're running long. In part 2, we'll explore how innovation and embracing change drive ongoing success, aligning decisions with 1,000-year goals in our ever-changing world, the single most crucial insight about Tesla that investors need to know, how Elon's companies all converge to a single distilled vision, and plenty more fascinating insights. To catch part 2 when it drops, hit subscribe and the bell icon. Let me know below whether you too see Elon playing an infinite game. Also, is GM trying to keep the company alive or just milking the company dry ahead of another bailout or bankruptcy? If you found this video interesting, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Consider supporting me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You'll get ad-free access to all my videos, plus exclusive monthly patron-only content. Click the link below. Your support makes these deep dives possible. Visit nordvpn.com/dots to keep your online presence secure and protect yourself from identity theft, scammers, and unwanted surveillance. For daily insights, follow me on X at x.com/connectingodots. Until next time, I am connecting the dots, and you are amazing.
When you're up against the wall and you cannot fall, so go off, go off, go off.